Organising politically can seem daunting. You've got to find a way to get as many people in your area as possible motivated enough about an issue that they're willing to spend their limited free time helping to tackle it. This can be hard. We live within a system that affords us little time to ourselves and uses up the majority of our energy during the work week. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a bit of a lazy sod, to be honest. It is, however, not impossible, and as I found, far easier than anticipated. In my last video, I argued why we as anarchists should probably still vote despite some of the issues with it as a process, and one of the points I raised was that we can vote and still do other more direct forms of political activity alongside. However, most people don't do much more than vote even if they would like to. Political organising isn't something that we're taught. I mean, Christ, can you imagine the state willingly teaching people that? So, as a result, people can feel really out of their depth when they try to get started. Before I actually took the plunge and started doing it myself, I was super hesitant, but eventually I just decided fuck it and got to work. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience with organising politically and share some of the useful advice I've learned along the way. Now, I haven't been doing this for very long, but I want to at least show you that it is possible to make a start in organising politically, even if you feel like you don't really have a clue of what to do. Because that's how I felt just a few months ago, and I've come a long way since then. I feel that there isn't really enough information out there on the actually getting started part of political organisation, and I would like to change that. Political organisation isn't like starting a business. You don't need to have all that solid of a plan. You can do it all by yourself and with pretty much no cash, which is good for me as I'm a skint as hell student. It can be as simple as starting a social media page, putting up a few posts and hosting a couple meetings to get started. It helps to have friends and other people who can share the post to get word spreading, but it's really not required. And the first few meetings will likely see little attendance, but eventually people will start coming and things will really start speeding up. That's how it was for me. I wanted to get a local chapter of Food Not Bombs started in my city, and for those of you that don't know, Food Not Bombs is a solidarity network that aims to distribute food that would otherwise go to waste alongside leftist literature advocating against war and military spending. However, I hadn't lived in this city very long and barely knew anyone else here, thanks to the Great Plague, but thankfully, a couple months earlier, I had attended a Polish women's rights protest and met quite a few really cool people there that were involved with a local community garden. A few of the people that I had met there and had later become friends with, I bounced the idea off of, and they all seemed to think it was a really great idea, which gave me the confidence I needed to finally get the ball rolling. And so I hosted my first meeting, and there were only 3 of us there, one of my best friends and a student journalist who was interested in covering the project. It was a decent meeting, some good ideas were thrown around, such as getting in contact with the local social centre, and I did a little interview for the student newspaper. Contacting the social centre turned out to be a really good idea, as they're an organisation with the explicit intent to help activists and local activism projects. And once I was in contact with them, I was able to present Food Not Bombs at one of their meetings, which really helped with a ton of great ideas and access to resources. And later we did end up officially affiliating with them. Food Not Bombs was a few meetings in at this point. Interest had been building, but it was still pretty much just me, until out of the blue a handful of really awesome people started showing up, full of ideas and motivation. We were still small, but we finally had just about the manpower and the resources to finally do something. Very practical and achievable plans were put into place for our first event, and we finally managed to get in contact with another branch of Food Not Bombs from a different city, which gave us the information we needed to solidify our plans. Things began to ramp up very quickly. A banner was made, flyers were printed, disposable cutlery was obtained, food was sourced, and all the equipment we would need to serve it up was gathered. A date and time had been set, and we weren't expecting much to come out of it, maybe dish up a couple plates of food. But a few days before our event, we discovered that on the same day there would be a rally in support of Palestine, so obviously we had to rearrange so that we would be doing our event alongside. We started cooking at 8 AM on the day, and we were posting about it all over our social media. We barely made it in time, but by God was it an amazing day. It also turned out that a ton of students came along to the rally that otherwise wouldn't have if they hadn't seen our posts, which, I don't know, makes me so happy. Throughout the entire day, we were handing out tons of flyers along with the food, and I took a ton of really awesome pictures, which allowed me to make a really cute post celebrating our first event, which ended up gathering quite a lot of attention. From then on, we've had a steady influx of both people and donations, which has allowed us to continue to improve our organisation. And since our first event, we've been hosting food distribution events just about every 2 weeks, and we've been collaborating with other local organisations. The community garden that I mentioned earlier hosted a big lunch that we helped out with, which got us in contact with a couple really good potential food sources. And we have another collaborative event coming up in a couple weeks with the local nuclear disarmament organisation in memorial of Hiroshima and Nagasaki that we were all looking very much forward to. This has all happened in about the span of 4 months, which just astounds me. The amount of people that have pitched in to help out fills me with such joy, and throughout all of this I've made some really great friends and finally feel at home in the city. Now for the advice. There's so many little tidbits that I've picked up along the way that I think would be really useful to share with you. Some may be a bit specific to Food Not Bombs, but I'm sure there'll be plenty that could help with any sort of political organisation. The first piece of advice that I have is that talking to people is your biggest tool. You don't even have to be particularly good at it. I know that I'm certainly not, but without other people, you definitely won't get very far. As soon as a conversation starts, you'll be amazed at just how much valuable information other people have, what they could bring to the table materially, or even who else they might know that could help you instead. Like, seriously, other people are fucking awesome, so go ahead and get talking. Don't be a wee loner. Get out there. My next piece of advice is to try not to overthink things and overplan. Allow yourself lots of wiggle room, because things rarely work out as intended.
That's just how you're going to speak for the rest of the video now.
My next piece of advice is to try not to overthink things and overplan. That is getting absolutely obliterated out of that video. That is getting burned. That will never see the light of day.
The intro.
My next piece of advice is to try not to overthink things and overplan. Make sure to allow yourself lots of wriggle room, because things rarely work out as intended, but that's okay. Nothing needs to be perfect. Our banner is a bit squished. I think our flyers have a typo, but it's too late. We've already printed 3,000. We're always running just about 10 minutes late, and so much is sorted out at the very last minute. And you know what? That's all okay. Things will work out as long as you stay calm and try to have fun. Easier said than done, I know, but trust me. Do I not look trustworthy to you? Some amount of organisation is required though, so make sure that you keep all of your passwords kept in a safe location and that you're keeping track of any money that is spent or donated in a spreadsheet. I also like to make sure that people take photos of any receipts that they've received for things that they've bought for the organisation, and I make sure that these are kept in a safe place. We have a Google Drive for this purpose and for keeping track of things like minutes, to-do lists, any copies of flyers that we have, and any photographs that we've taken at events. This helps to keep us transparent as anyone can access it and take a look. We also have a group chat so that people can stay in the loop between meetings. Another super important thing is delegation. Once you get more people involved, you don't have to do everything yourself, and nor should you. Though I do understand the temptation to micromanage. You know, it's your baby, and you want to make sure everything goes smoothly. Food Not Bombs is an anarchist organisation, so it was super important to me that despite being the person to get things started, that I wasn't like the leader or anything. I'm no longer the sole decision maker on things like I was when I first got things started. Despite the fact that I still have my fingers in pretty much all of the pies, that's more of a result of the fact that I have a lot of information because I was here from the beginning, so people want a piece of that. All I really care about is making sure that the ball keeps rolling, and I'm not really interested in having the final say on anything. Most other things I've tried to get people more involved with, such as the social media accounts, which was one of the first things that I tried to hand off to somebody else, and I'm super glad I did, because A, I hate doing the social media stuff, and B, the people that are managing it now are doing a far better job than I ever could. If people come to me with ideas, I encourage them to put it into the group chat, as they don't need my approval for anything. They can get to work on it, contact who they need to contact, and only come to me if they need my car for anything. I think those are my biggest and most useful pieces of advice. Most other things will fall into place as things develop. The only other things that I can think of that might be useful are: do not bother with Zoom. Systemly is a wonderful, free, and explicitly left-wing alternative that I wish I'd known about sooner. Try to keep an eye on things like Facebook Marketplace. Things will pop up in there that will be super useful for whatever it is you're doing for super cheap. For example, for us, we were using these rickety wooden tables that were super tiny for our first event, but by the time of our second event, I had managed to get a hold of 2 6-foot-long folding tables for about £25 each. Fucking bargain. In the UK, dumpster diving isn't a crime, though trespassing is. Do with that information what you will. We don't need to dumpster dive as we get plenty of food through food donations, but it's useful information to have regardless. Hand out flyers at every opportunity, and this is something that I've really been trying to drill into the heads of the other volunteers, as it is super important. At every opportunity you get, just talking to someone, you're handing out food, just like having a general day-to-day conversation, hand out a flyer. You really want the word to spread, so make sure you have flyers on you at pretty much every minute you're awake. Do your research into the law in your area. Especially with this new police crime sentencing and courts bill, you want to be extra careful with what you're doing. Find organisations with similar aims and values to your own. Usually they'll be super willing to help out or point you in the direction of people who can. One of the biggest helps for us as an organisation was getting in contact with other branches of Food Not Bombs. I cannot express how lovely those people are. They have been a massive boon to us. Okay, right. I think that's just about everything. I think. Maybe? I don't know. I just love talking about this stuff so much, and I'm sure there's probably quite a few like little tidbits I might have missed. But I think I got most of the main points. There'll be something there for everyone, I'm sure. Basically, just go for it. The hardest step is the first step because you've got to have the confidence to actually try and do something. But once you've made that step, everything really does fall into place. I know it's easier said than done, but I've done it, so fucking listen to me. The one thing that I kept telling myself, and that you probably should too, is that if you don't do it, you have absolutely no guarantee that anyone else will do it instead, so you'd better hop to it.
Do it!
Anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope it encourages you to start organising in your area. Trust me when I say that it really is super fulfilling and totally worth the effort. Godspeed in your future activist endeavours, and if you enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like or subscribing. Until next time.